Welcome to me, where suspenseful, thrilling, and mysterious stories will draw you into a world where the lines between reality and fantasy seem to blur. When the night falls, when all the sounds gradually quiet down, leaving only your own heartbeat and breathing, that's when these stories begin. Tensions, unsolved mysteries, moments that will make you hold your breath in fear or curiosity, all are waiting for you ahead. Find a comfortable seat, dim the lights, and let this sound guide you on a journey that is not for the faint of heart. I want each of you to leave a comment sharing where you are in the world. And if you are enjoying the episodes, don't forget to give a like and subscribe to the channel now. Relax. Are you ready? If so, join me in the first story right now. The Suicide Shop. The Suicide Shop. When I first saw Kevin Trask, he was almost naked. Perhaps fully naked in my mind's eye. But he was wearing the skimpiest of bathing suits as he got out of his pool, stretched and toweled himself in the noonday sun. He could have modeled for any underwear ad. He was that chiseled, with long, angular lines from head to toe. I was both disappointed and relieved when he put on a purple silk robe. How appropriate, I thought, for the king of his world. He had yet to speak, despite acknowledging my presence with a brief nod. He was dead wrong if he intended for me to feel cowed by his superiority. I hated what he did for a living. Inside or outside? He asked as he came closer to me. I must have looked confused, or perhaps still caught in the daze of watching him get out of the pool. The interview? Oh, okay, I stammered, instantly regretting how I must have sounded to him, but then quickly recovered. Inside, I said. Too much sun out here, and I did not bring sunscreen. Inside, I groaned, thinking I could not sound any more stupid and thrown off by his looks, like any schoolgirl, instead of a crack reporter for the Daily Interview, a serious national magazine, a Pulitzer Prize finalist, for God's sake. Jeannie Hawk, crack reporter, bowled over by a Chippendale. Follow me. He turned and walked away from the house, and then through a hidden door in the outbuilding next to the pool. I like to use this room, out of earshot of the staff. NDAs can only cover so much. I don't want to be overheard spilling state secrets, he said with a smile. The interview will take about an hour, I said. He sat down and pressed a button on the side of his chair. The wall on the right side rolled away to reveal floor-to-ceiling window panes, revealing a view of the valley and city below. Nice view, I said. Fit for the Lord of all he surveys. He chuckled. I like it. Okay then, Jeannie Hawk, ask away. He got up and went to the wet bar. Drink? Just water. Kevin Trask rarely did interviews, and I wanted to take full advantage of his time. Indeed, other than a few transitory answers at press conferences, he had never given a full interview. I placed my recorder and notebook on the coffee table before me, then dug into my purse for a pen. He watched me as I set up the tools of the trade. Why both? He asked. Why both pen and paper and recorder? I always like backup. I said. I never did trust technology. He shrugged. I do. I studied him, taking in the sculptured beauty of his face, the one plastered all over the country on magazines, billboards, and buses. He took you into his eyes, forgiving all, a confessor and father, brother, even lover, all at once, leaving you wanting to do nothing but fall into those eyes and let it all go, listening to his voice as he told you to come find the peace you sought, the release you need, the end you had to have. And here I was, sitting before the real person behind those ads. I shook myself back to the task at hand. This is Jeannie Hawk, date June 1st, 2035. So, Mr. Trask, he stopped me with a hand. Call me Kevin, he said, inviting me to continue. So, Kevin, I stressed the word. How did it all start? Where did you get the idea for the suicide shop? People have always wanted to kill themselves, Jeannie. I made a way for them to do that and live should they choose, and also to die should they choose that. It turns out that being able to do that all in one place made for an attractive business. My turn to hold up a hand. Kevin, if I had wanted to listen to one of the suicide shop ads, I could have simply turned on the television. Every idea starts somewhere. I want to know your start. What drove you at the beginning and made you create all this? Trask watched me interminably, emotions playing deep in his green eyes. Then he seemed to come to a conclusion. I walked into the ocean to die, and I did not die. He paused a long second, and then began again. I walked into the ocean to die, to let the waves wash over me and take me away. I thought the pills I had taken with the booze I had drunk would kick in and block any pain. I had been depressed for a long time and wanted it to end. I picked a spot where, when I sat down, the water came up to my neck. Then I waited. Oddly, I did not think about much. I just sat and waited. Perhaps it was the booze and the drugs. I don't know. But what was ahead of me was just a blank. Nothing that held any terror. I fell asleep for what I thought would be the last time. The water would take me, and I would be at peace. When I woke, the first light of dawn glimmered on the horizon. I was now sitting on wet sand, naked, the water's edge now 5 feet behind me. The tide had gone out, not in, and now I was sober and exposed and very, very naked. I raced to my clothes, still piled on the sand. I pulled the shorts on and then slipped back into my hotel room. No one saw me on the beach at that time of the morning. I would have made quite a sight to the old couples who strolled the early morning hours on the sand, hunting for shells and health. You cannot imagine how foolish I felt. Both lucky and a total failure simultaneously. The odd thing was that I no longer wished to die. My depression was gone, lifted from me like a weight that held me down. I felt light and released and did not fear the future. He stopped, not looking at me, lost in thoughts of long ago. I asked, "If you did not want to die anymore, then why did you start a company that provides suicide as a service?" He returned to the present, looked at me with those eyes that poured deep into my soul, and smiled. "Have you ever wanted to kill yourself, Jeannie?" "Of course not," I said, perhaps a bit too briskly. "I don't believe you. Most people want to at least once at some point in their lives, only to be stopped by circumstance or fear. Morality offers only partial protection. When you do it, it seems like a good idea at the time." I never forgot that. I had truly wanted to die. I had no reservations, and yet I did not die. And in that not dying, my life was given back to me. I went to work in various businesses, creating a living for myself and doing very well. I watched as society's attitude toward suicide changed, and a new movement started. My life, my body movement swept the country, sometimes not easily, but it continued to grow. People had become tired of being told what to do, no matter whether it meant being told what to do to live or being told what to do to die. They looked at it like a new war of independence, and they won. Congress eventually passed the My Life, My Body Act, making suicide legal. I helped, worked for the movement, and gave my money and time. I had a plan that I had ready for the time that came. I saw a need to provide people with a way to explore the suicide scenario safely, to see if that was indeed what they wanted, or if, like me, they would find that it was just a good idea at the time. So, I opened my first suicide shop. There, you could try the various ways to do yourself in. I expected that many people would regret the act if saved from it, just as I had been. I arranged multiple ways to try. A menu, so to speak, death a la carte, all safe unless you flipped off the safety switch. Then, it became permanent, but it was rarely used. Most preferred the safe try. The first shop was so successful that I franchised it, and it became the largest chain of any company in the country, and over the years, in the world. Would you like to see the inside of the shop? Absolutely. I followed him out of the house, down to a parking area with a large blue Rolls-Royce and a red Lamborghini. The chauffeur was waiting by the Rolls, and I expected him to get in that one, but he crossed the parking lot floor and held the door of the Lamborghini open for me. I like to drive. Do you feel you are doing all this for the money? I asked. when we were driving. He just looked straight ahead, weaving in and out of the traffic, expertly guiding the car. I thought I saw a small curl in the corner of his lips, just the beginning of a smile. That's an old gambit, not very inventive, and surely you can come up with better. I provide a service. Others could do it as well, but I think my way gives people a chance to reconsider, to change their minds, and not complete the task if they are not truly committed. True, I said. What about those who come back repeatedly? Are they not adrenaline death junkies, getting ever closer to the deed to keep getting high? This time, he did not smile. Off the record? Okay, I answered. I have worried about that. At first, it was just a blip on the data screens, but at least there was a distinct uptick in the repeat visits. There may be a sexual adrenaline component to it. How often have you done it? I asked. Many, many times. I sensed that there was more he wanted to say, but he just added, "It does make the bottom line look good. Do you have much security?" Oddly, not much. But we must guard the cars. We never know which trip could be their last. I let them park on site. Public lots complained about the abandoned vehicles. He parked the car, and we got out. We went to a private elevator, then up 4 floors, and then out to a large room. A hallway led out from it in 4 different directions, each lined by large glass doors on either side. He waved a languid arm to either side, and I watched pride form on his lips in a slow smile. Each room is a different experience, he said. Each room will be tuned to an individual's desires, just like tuning your radio dial to the deadly channel of death. This one, he said, pointing to the room to his right, is the overdose room, complete with all the world's favorite drugs, packaged in pill or IV form. If you want to go right to the edge and be pulled back, you must leave the safety switch in the safe position, and an aide will administer the antidote. Tell me of the other rooms. He moved on, waving his hand to either side, pointing out rooms for gunshots, cutting your wrists, throwing yourself out of a building or a cliff, car wrecks, death. By misadventure, even death by cop. There were many more rooms. Some take more preparation, mixing virtual and real reality in ways that can keep you alive unless you've turned off the safety switch. They are proprietary trade secrets that I can't tell you. We are quite adaptable. I felt the hair rising on my neck as he said this, realizing what appetites were being fulfilled here. I made a few notes, and my mind was racing. It's a cultural phenomenon. People use suicide as entertainment. I looked up at him and saw great weariness in his eyes, more than I would have expected. He was not a young man, but looked older than he should have when he did not smile. I suspected that he was unhappy with his creation. "Let's have a cup of coffee," he said. He led me down the hallway around the corner. There is a cafeteria coffee shop for people needing a timeout or a family that comes with them. Usually, if they bring family, they don't take the final plunge. Most of the time, they do that alone. He sat me down at the table and brought us each a cup of coffee. Mine was exactly what I wanted. Heavy duty, with lots of sugar. I wondered if he had been researching me. Off the record, he said, watching me put my book away and ensure the recorder was powered off. The rest of our discussion should be off the record, as it might be bad for business. Going back to our previous discussion, people often ask why the person kills themselves. As I told you, I've always said that it is because it seems like a good idea at the time. The premise of my business was to have a way to explore that and find out if that's what you really wanted to do. Once the laws were changed and suicide became legal and a recognized right, it took on a life of its own. As you know, I have thousands of suicide shop franchises worldwide and gather data on the people who do it themselves. At first, it was a small number, but most people seemed to be looking for experience without true motivation. I've noticed, though, that the more you try, the more you return. And the more they return, the closer they get to the end. I believe you're right. Those people have developed an addiction. What is not known is that more people have died in the last 3 years of my shops than in all the wars the world over in those 3 years. To quote that old line, I have become death. He chuckled mercilessly. Beware of unintended consequences. Can you stop it? I said. He looked at me and smiled, but the smile seemed to have the weight of the world in it, preventing it from ever becoming full. Turn your recorder back on. Let's finish the tour. You know I've never given an interview like this before. You may win a Pulitzer. We went to the last room. Inside the center of the room was a guillotine, one of my new additions. This device is one of the most efficient ways to kill ever invented. It's foolproof with the proper machine, quick in its finality, and I hope it is painless. Although you can't ask the subject after it's done. Of course, it has a safety switch. And as with all the rooms, I can measure all the physiologic signs right up to the actual death moment. This room has not had a customer yet. I would expect it to be the same. The sensors review the data and come up with what I call the fear acceptance ratio. The closer to 0 that ratio gets, the more certain it becomes that the person will go through with it and kill themselves. I have placed a monitor in each room that the customer cannot see, but my technicians can. That's it. There on the far wall. If my technicians see the number getting close to 0, they know to be ready to call in the cleanup crew. That's a detail that has never been revealed. Be sure you write that down. The safety switch is there by the right hand. In order to have the machine complete the task, you have to push it all the way to the right. and a green light will come on, and the computer will ask you if you are sure. If you say yes, the blade drops. He looked at me and asked, "Are you getting everything?" I nodded. "Stay here then, and watch." Then he slipped inside the room. I was unsure, but I thought I had heard him lock it. I saw him lay down on the guillotine and put the bracket over his neck, and heard it click into place. I heard his voice tell me the sensors were built into the machine. I looked at the monitor on the far wall and saw a flashing number that started at 7 and then crept quickly to 0. "Are you getting all that?" I heard him say. "Yes," I said, feeling a tremor of doom start to shake me. I wanted him out of that room. I saw him grasp the safety switch. His hand slowly pushed it towards the right. "Remember everything I said," I heard him say, as I tried to force my way through the door, but realized it was useless. Through the glass, I saw the safety switch turn green and heard the computer's voice asking if he was sure. Holding what I felt was my last breath, I heard him say, "Yes." "No, don't!" I screamed. "No, don't!" The blade dropped. The last thing I saw as my scream faded was his head rolling on the floor, stopping next to the glass, his dead green eyes on mine. I was still crying. "No, don't." Confessions of the Wicked. Trigger warning. This story contains mentions of suicide, murder, SA, and drug abuse to whomever it may concern in the future. I must confess, Lisa clutched the letter tightly in her trembling hands, her heart racing as she tried to process the words before her. Each sentence felt like a distant echo, her mind struggling to comprehend the reality they presented. The ink on the paper blurred into a haze as she stared at it as if it were a passage from a dramatic novel rather than a message meant for her. One shaky hand dropped to the desk, the wooden surface cool against her palm, while the other instinctively covered her mouth in a futile attempt to stifle a gasp. A powerful wave of dread surged through her, leaving her muscles taut and aching with anxiety. Feeling an urgent need to escape the suffocating atmosphere, she pivoted on her toes, her breath coming in quick, shallow gasps, and made a fast beeline for the door, desperate to put distance between herself and the shocking revelation contained in that letter. Her mind raced wildly, grappling with the cruel reality of working in the very prison where her brother had been a devoted inmate for the last 10 years. The stark, cold walls echoed with memories of their shared laughter, now replaced by a haunting sense of despair. Every day, she poured herself into her work, driven to the brink of insanity as she navigated the complex legal system, desperately seeking a way to free him. Yet, in the quiet moments, a dark shadow loomed over her thoughts, the chilling possibility that all her efforts might still fall short in saving him from the fate the letter she held had predicted. She remembered the moment she first heard about her brother's arrest in South Korea. A wave of despair crashing over her. Confusion and heartbreak gripped her as she tried to fathom why he had been taken from her. In those early days, she had poured herself into studying the laws of both Korea and the United States, desperate to understand the gravity of the 24 murder charges and 2 counts of attempted murder he faced. Late nights spent poring over legal texts had become her refuge, each page turning fueled by an unwavering determination to bring him back and piece together the chaos that had upended their lives. The murders occurred in the United States, which ultimately led Lisa's family to seek refuge in South Korea. They were fleeing the shadows cast by a chilling truth. Richard was a serial killer. Disturbingly, Lisa's parents were aware of Richard's dark nature long before the FBI uncovered his gruesome activities. He had confided in them, revealing his violent tendencies and chilling declaration that he would continue his spree regardless of the consequences, even if apprehended. Richard's descent into darkness began at a young age. When he was just 17, he was discovered covered in blood at a crime scene, a scene that would mark his 3rd murder. This incident forced him to come clean about his heinous actions. Under pressure from law enforcement, Richard detailed each horrifying crime he committed, recounting events with a disturbing calmness, as if sharing mundane stories instead of the tragedies he inflicted. For Lisa's family, the awareness of his twisted mind and the violent past they were escaping only deepened the turmoil they felt in their new home. Their parents seriously thought about turning him into the police, but then they saw Lisa. How could they abandon their youngest? Their son had taken lives. It's infuriating to think they were so desperate to protect him that they convinced themselves he could get away with it, claiming self-defense. And if that failed, they had the audacity to believe he could plead insanity. It's maddening. They were determined not to let their family suffer the consequences of his monstrous actions. They had fought hard for their so-called American dream, and now they were willing to ignore the reality of murder just to keep it intact. I've committed some really questionable acts that I have come to wholeheartedly regret. Some may ask why I even did such a thing. The answer will always be that I do not know myself. You can call it an insatiable urge. Lisa stood before her brother's cell, her heart pounding in her chest as she fought to steady her breath. Each inhalation came in shaky increments, a desperate attempt to keep her presence unnoticed in the cold, dimly lit hallway. She searched for some sort of implication to give truth to that letter. All that was in the cell were her brother's 2 very active cellmates. They slept serenely, coddled up like children against the wall of their respective bunks. As she tightly gripped the cold metal bar of the cell. An electrifying tension filled the air, causing the inmates to stir in panic. It was as if a primal instinct had been awakened within them, leading them to believe they were suddenly thrust into a perilous struggle for survival. Much like the brutal realities one often faces in the dark corners of the slums, the brawny ginger had his eyes wide and red with irritation. He almost flew from his frame from the banging that Lisa's small palm had brought to life with a touch. The other, smaller, but still muscular, had softly turned himself over, almost unbothered by the verbal intrusion caused by the one female CO showing up at their block in the dead of night. There was only a lustful glare there. She sighed and glared at them, her stare demanding to see the last person in the shadows. She hoped from the bottom of her heart that her brother would creep up from behind the twin bunks. A silence made static pass through her ears, and her brother didn't emerge. Instead, that small inmate crept from his laid-down position and mirrored Lisa at the entrance to the cell. He breathed hard with a tangy output, showering Lisa's face with disgust. She scoffed as she pressed on her heels, steadily taking a step back. To Lisa, the inmate in front of her looked like a starved beast. She often saw the man in front of her teaching other inmates how to cope with their new life in prison. As an inmate himself, he should not have had the right to do so, but his compassion and leadership led people to look up to him. He was honestly the sweetest man that she could claim she met in prison. Even her brother had more spine than muscle. One day, Lisa decided to ask him why he was still in prison. He explained that same night that he received a life sentence after being caught. He admitted that when he was free, he kidnapped and tortured an uncomfortable amount of transient women. He said something along the lines of, "God has no respect for harlots." Maybe he was insane, but he claimed he was a respectful man of the Lord. In the state he stood in now, he was the pure antonym of the nice guy persona he usually shows. His eyes rested half-lidded and bloodshot. His gaze lingered on parts of her body with an unsettling desire. Although his hands gripped hard on the bars on either side of her face, he looked ready to topple over with a single misstep. He mumbled to say something, but she was only able to understand the slurring of an accused drunk. Realizing her presence made no difference to anyone in the vicinity, she sucked in as much as she could and ran off with that breath held within her chest, the letter Lt as if it was coming true. I want to see the chaos from the front seat. Such a massacre has been my dream since becoming a person of power. I can do it, so why not? For 25 years, I have gotten away with enough wrongdoings to make the boy I'm killing tonight look like a saint. He's been a serial killer since childhood, but he's merciful in the sense he ends their suffering. However, Lisa rushed through the halls with her hands clasped around her keys. She glided past cell after cell with nothing standing out to her until she heard a muffled bang come from the prison's watchtower, cantered in the lunch area on the first floor. She crept up to the door and reached for the knob. A sharp pain ran through the muscles in her wrist. Her eyes closed for the moment of impact before she opened them to see her brother in nothing but his worn-out, once white, prison boxers. His eyes were wide and the same shaded red as the other inmate she had seen up close. His entire face was morphed into fear itself. Lisa had never seen him look like this. Richard fell on top of her, breathing as if he just escaped a nasty waterboarding session. Except he wasn't wet. He was covered in oil. She froze in place, a fathomable confusion filling her expression. The room grew more tense as Richard only stared for a moment and opened his mouth, inhaling and howling. He then pushed off Lisa's chest and sprinted away, never turning to look back. His destination seemed unclear. It just looked like he wanted to get as far away as possible. At first, she found the cowardice retreat understandable because it made sense. The only time a prisoner would get to enter the watchtower was if they were in trouble and about to receive some sort of punishment. My morals have morphed over the years. I'm not an old man going senile. I have come to embrace the cruelty I wish to inhabit, although I still recognize that this is wrong. I want to watch the hell burn from its core. I understand that this is an unforgivable madness. The ending of the letter resurfaced in her brain as the warden walked out from the shadows of the tower. He smiled widely, towering over her in uniform pants and his uniform boots. He lifted his hand with his gun pointed to his head. She stared in horror as her brother's howling continued like a dog whistle. Before she could catch up with herself, the gun was fired and a bullet went straight through the warden's skull. So I write this letter to let you know that I will be taking my own life after have fun. And I take the boy's. His body fell limp, and the alarms finally took away her silence. She stared at the body, and the next 4 hours of her life passed in a blur. She was taken into emergency care and treated for substance abuse, just like everyone else in the prison. Even though she had accidentally saved her brother's life that night, it was already too many deaths, too late. The world had already been spoon-fed the confession of the wicked, harmful intentions. History shows that technological advancement brought about the end of civilization, fragmented into divisions that hastened its collapse. The problem was that the majority thoughtlessly embraced regression, while the intelligent proclaimed that freedom had ended long ago. Freedom ended with an algorithm that read intent, marketed as a savior, but fundamentally incapable of understanding logic. To avoid chaos and preserve harmony, the apology law was introduced. If the algorithm identified someone with intentions deemed harmful, the accused was legally obligated to apologize to the victim. If the accused apologized and admitted guilt, acknowledging that they had harmful thoughts, they remained in the registry, but were not punished. However, if accused 3 times, or if they refused to apologize, they were declared a danger to society and exiled to the zone of silence, a place where no communication with society was possible. On June 23rd, at 1:10 a.m., 2 lifeless men in bland gray suits appeared at my door. "You are accused of harmful intent," they said, offering no further explanation. I had no choice but to go with them. The 2 gray men escorted me to a claustrophobic cell with concrete walls, no windows, and a single chair in the center. They told me they'd come for me at 6 in the morning to take me to trial. It was already 3 a.m. All I had was panic and the chair. In those few hours, I tried to recall all the harmful intents I might have harbored in my life. The problem was that I was one of those quiet, introverted types. A person everyone says wouldn't hurt a fly. Nothing came to mind. I recalled no one provoking harmful intent. I was used to being a doormat. Tired of fighting back, I spent my days writing. My wife had left with her colleague, and I preferred the solitude to her insults, calling me useless. Silence, at least, offered peace. Society, fractured by the constant surveillance of the algorithm, had left me without friends. That was the problem. I had lost the will to live in such a society, along with any desire or intention. Smoking, drinking coffee, and writing were habits, not intentions. Detention bewildered me. I didn't even live with intent. I suppose it was precisely 6 o'clock in the morning when the 2 gray men returned for me. They didn't strike me as the type to joke about seconds. They led me through narrow, gray painted corridors with gray doors on either side until we arrived at an empty courtroom where they gestured for me to sit. The courtroom reeked of bleach, as though executions had occurred. Suddenly, it dawned on me. What if the algorithm, incapable of interpreting context and logic in thoughts and feelings, had interpreted one of my stories as harmful intent? It was true that I often vented my frustrations by punishing characters in my stories. The algorithm must have misinterpreted every artist. That explains the disappearance of art. At that moment, a prosecutor burst into the courtroom as swiftly as a swallow's tail. But there was no defense attorney. That profession no longer existed. The prosecutor was a tall, skinny man, one of those people you'd say had been consumed by malice from the inside out. A worm, a tall worm with feet. He wiggled constantly, twisting as if he itched all over or urgently needed the restroom. As the worm ignored me, I let my gaze wander across the courtroom. The gray walls pulsed, rearranging with each blink. Above the judge's bench, AI slogans flickered erratically. Freedom is the absence of choice. Apologize to survive. Their chaos reflected my growing despair. It became clear that I no longer existed, even as an artist. AI wrote instead of me. The worm wiggled, pointing to the door. A figure entered, the judge of intent, and took his seat at the bench. His mismatched face and darting eyes gave him a grotesque, puppet-like appearance. When he spoke, his voice didn't match his mouth. His lips, twisted in perpetual disgust and drooping to his neck, bore no relation to the words emerging as if dubbed. For a while, the judge leafed through documents in complete silence. I assumed they were about me, though I couldn't imagine what they might contain. I didn't dare to speak or ask. When he finished, he looked at the worm, who leaped to his feet as if stung, and began speaking in such a formal tone that I struggled to follow. Your Honor, the accused was caught red-handed in the act of harboring harmful thoughts, and the prosecution will easily prove this. Only then did he take a breath. You are accused of thought crimes, the judge said. Which thoughts? I asked, my voice cracking. He paused, tilting his head like a machine processing input. Your thoughts. All of them. But Defensiveness confirms intent, he interrupted. My voice collapsed in my throat. I didn't know what they wanted me to confess. And perhaps neither did they. How do you plead? The judge asked, his voice rasping, as though he'd been smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day since birth. Plead, Your Honor. I mimicked how the worm addressed him. Plead to what? The accused refuses to admit guilt and apologize to the victim, thereby obstructing the legal remedy. Legal remedy? I thought. Am I sick? Sick with what? Does the prosecution have witnesses? The judge rasped again, directing his gaze at the worm. The worm grinned, as if he'd been waiting for this moment. We call the accused's teacher as the first witness. My teacher, I thought. Back when I went to school, there was no algorithm. If anyone acted harmfully, it was that tyrant of a teacher. The teacher, nicknamed Psycho, entered, older but unchanged. He had been infamous for flailing and throwing things in class, only to quickly smile as if nothing had happened. Hence the nickname. Now, Psycho was frail and nearly blind, bumping into the witness stand before taking his seat. When given the word, he began in a saccharine voice. Your Honor, I did everything in my power to properly shape this boy. Perhaps I even contributed to his harmful nature, but my hands were tied. As a teacher, I wasn't allowed to discipline him more severely. And by nature, I am a gentle soul. While Psycho spoke sweetly, I pictured him hurling chairs. He had harmful intent, Psycho said. When boys beat him, I saw retaliation in his eyes. Retaliation? I feared. I also recall a literature class where the students were asked to write essays about their father's occupations. When I called on him, having no father, he hadn't completed the assignment. Naturally, I gave him a failing grade. His tear-filled eyes turned red as blood. I swear he wanted to burn the school down. Burn the school down? I just wanted to cry. As I've aged, some memories have faded, but I can swear to this. One day, when other children pointed and laughed at him because his mother still brought him to school and waited for him after class, he wet himself. I'm certain he imagined a gun at that moment. They weren't pointing at me, I thought. They were throwing rocks at me while I cowered in the corner, bloody and bruised. Your Honor. Psycho leaned forward, his eyes wide with sincerity. The accused often sat in my class and stared out the window. I saw the intent in his eyes, an intent to escape, to defy the order of the classroom. The judge nodded gravely, pronouncing, "Escapism leads to anarchy." He has been a menace to society from birth. There is no doubt that he is guilty. The judge allowed Psycho to leave the courtroom. As he shuffled out, painfully slow, or as fast as he could manage, I wondered, how is it possible that even after these absurd and grotesque accusations made up by a tyrant, I feel harmful intent toward him? The judge turned to me again, rasping, "Do you admit guilt and apologize to the victim?" "Guilt for what?" I asked, confused. Am I actually on trial for one of the ridiculous situations described by a madman? "No," the judge replied coldly. "The prosecutor has brought witnesses to testify about your character, which is evidently prone to harmful intent. You are on trial for an intent only you can admit, and you must apologize to an anonymous victim. Otherwise, you will be exiled to the zone of silence." "Then, no. I truly don't know what intent you're referring to. Wouldn't it be simpler to tell me the accusation so I can respond to a real charge?" "You clearly don't understand the system. Prosecutor, call your next witness." The worm wiggled with delight, announcing, "I call the accused's wife to the stand." She entered, adorned with gaudy jewelry, her hair styled into an overdone perm that made her head look enormous. Her makeup-caked blouse emphasized her unattractiveness. A harpy, I thought. We had vowed to stand by each other in good times and bad. Yet here she was, standing as one of the pillars of doom, ready to crush me. I sat there, devastated, staring at the table, holding my head. I didn't have the strength to look at her, perhaps the most important person in my life, betraying me to prove her loyalty to the system for her own survival, unconsciously blending the dialects from my southern birthplace and her western home. She made a strong effort to speak in the central dialect. It was quite funny, but my reaction barely reached the corners of my lips. The main heroine of a Turkish soap opera couldn't have been more unconvincing and exaggerated. "Your Honor," she said tearfully, though no tears appeared. "This man stole my youth. The algorithm should have caught him sooner." She clutched a tissue she didn't use. "He once asked if I was happy. Such doubt is harmful to harmony." I had once loved her confidence until I saw her superficiality for what it was. She added a sniff. "I love this man, but I love the truth more. I'll tell you everything. The truth that the perm wasn't the best idea," I thought bitterly. "I married him out of love, but he hid his harmful intent until the wedding. Soon after, he began calling me degrading names like useless and a rag. I looked up in shock. Why is she blaming me for her words? I feared his intent to harm me or end any chance of having a child. She threw herself across the bench dramatically, sobbing loudly, but still without a single tear. This deeply hurt me. After years of silence, I reacted with a yell. "What are you saying? How dare you? I begged you for a child all these years, but you said you didn't want some brat to ruin your beauty." The judge interrupted me with a loud thump of his gavel, stating that he wouldn't allow me to insult the poor woman on the stand. I sat down, stunned, clutching my head. Am I crazy? Maybe they're all telling the truth, but my perception is warped. But if this is true, then I'm not me. I don't know who I am anymore. As my thoughts struggled to regain some clarity, the actress on the stand continued her performance. "Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to add the most harmful intent of the accused." The accused? I thought. So now she's stripping away my very name, my status, my identity. I know I'm not perfect, but that's only because I respect the algorithm. The accused loved silence, and I preferred to speak my intentions out loud rather than live in fear of how they might be interpreted. Sometimes I wonder if I lost him in all that noise, or if I simply didn't understand him. She paused dramatically. But the algorithm is far more important to me, even more than my appearance. Maybe that's why he told me he wanted to leave me for his colleague. But I refused. And since the law doesn't allow divorce unless both parties agree, she paused for a long moment. He intended to kill me. She collapsed, fake sobbing and writhing in exaggerated anguish. A weak range of actions for such an actress. While the worm escorted the exhausted woman out of the courtroom, I remained frozen. Somewhere in the distance, I heard the judge asking me for the third time if I admitted guilt and offered an apology to the victim. I responded from some other place. The words slowly came out of me, almost mechanically. If we were caricaturing the roles, this woman, my wife, would be the victim. Am I accused of killing her? I asked. Well, yes, I must have killed her. There's no other explanation. Is this the guilt I must admit and apologize to this victim of genocide? Don't make me repeat myself. The judge was now even angrier. I told you that the witnesses don't know the reason for your trial. Only you know your intent. Will you admit it? But what worse intent could I have than murder? For murder, you'd be punished without trial. But your disgusting, repulsive, vile intent could shake society to its core and completely destabilize harmony. I sat down, mouth agape. Prosecutor, introduce the final witness, after which I will deliver the verdict. Completely beside myself, lost in my identity, and thus lost from the courtroom, I didn't notice that my mother had burst through the door and jumped onto me over the desk. She clung to me, caressing me roughly, as if slapping me, and hanging from the desk, trying to reach me with kisses. You're mine! I won't let anyone have you! As the worm gently pulled her off me and led her to the witness stand, I remained motionless. I just turned my head toward the window and stayed catatonic. Meanwhile, she wailed, "Let me take him home. I won't have anyone to sniff my flesh to see if it's gone bad, to call to come for me every time I have a diarrhea attack." He didn't mean it. All the teachers loved him. His wife adores him. He's a model citizen. I never let him out of my hands. He's my baby, my lover. He's my trophy, proof of my perfection. If you condemn him, you condemn me too. Come to mother, son. Let me nurse you once again. I stared through the window, a lifeless person inside me, into the lifeless city. In the background of the so-called harmony, this society operates like a perfectly tuned machine. Silence on the streets, people moving in neat lines with minimal interaction, and a complete loss of the spontaneity of human connection. While they forcefully dragged some mad woman out of the courtroom, I noticed the passers-by didn't even raise their eyes, as if everyone had already been condemned to silence. Absently, I heard the judge asking me for the last time if I admitted guilt and offered an apology. Out of my body, as if hypnotized, I whispered, "What guilt? For what? Who?" I've always been more afraid of hurting someone else than myself. The worm, now almost gleeful, turned to the judge, who looked at me with wide eyes. "So, you admit?" "What am I admitting?" I asked. my mind still reeling. You admit your harmful intent? I didn't understand. The judge nodded to the worm, who whispered to me, "You just admitted your harmful intent." What did I say? That I would rather hurt myself than hurt others? Yes, the worm rejoiced. And then it hit me. The previous night, I had thought about how I never quite fit in, how I had no life or expectations, and that the best thing would have been to end my life long ago. So that's it? I'm being accused because suicide seemed like the only way out. The judge regained his official tone. Accused, stand up. It is my duty to read the law to you again. The court offers leniency. If you admit guilt and apologize, the punishment will be light, but your name will remain in the register of those with bad intent. If you are accused 3 times or refuse to admit guilt and apologize to the victim, you will be declared a danger to society and exiled to the zone of silence, a place where no communication with society is possible. What will it be? Declare yourself, apologize to the victim, or be declared a danger to society. I pose no harm to society, only to myself. So I must be the victim. Yes, I am the victim. All these years, I've been helpless, not knowing how to fight, how to live, how to be human. That's why I intended to take my life. I finally spoke. Your Honor, I admit I had a harmful thought, I said, but not guilt. I will not apologize because it's not my guilt. And it's not for me to apologize. The judge's tired eyes met mine. He raised the gavel, declaring, "Guilty." As I was led to the zone of silence, I passed a wall with faint writing on it, barely legible, written by a shaking hand. Silence is not the end. I couldn't help feeling I wasn't alone. Silence embraced me. In it, I found myself. The zone was truly silent, but not deafening, peaceful. Finally, I could hear my heart, my breath, my thoughts. Here, in a world without judgment, I was no longer a son, nor a husband, nor part of society. I was simply me. This wasn't the end, but the beginning. Silence. Let me exist. Silence is freedom. Dead girl walking. Nobody knows that I've been bit. Nobody can know. They'll kill me, and I wouldn't blame them. I wouldn't feel betrayed if my own sister put a gun to my head and pulled the trigger if she found out. I would do the same, because it is the right thing to do, the safe thing to do. So I'm biding my time. It may be selfish what I'm doing, but in this apocalyptic world, it's every man for himself, or every woman, in my case. Hurry up, Nevada. Tristan wants those potatoes by yesterday. We're having a feast. I snap out of my thoughts. and go back to peeling the last potato. I'm basically done. Here, take them. She picks up the metal bowl and walks out of the house. All the makeshift houses were built in a big circle after the apocalypse, so we're all like one big family. Our house isn't much. A run-down cabin, really, in the middle of a field that's in the center of the great woods. That's where I was bit. It was my fault, but I just couldn't help myself. Thomas. The very thought of him makes my eyes tear up and makes me reach for my locket. A picture of the two of us on our 2-year anniversary inside. He was one of the first to turn. I visited him often, but I never crossed the electric fence. I sang to him. I talked to him, sure that he was listening, until one day, I couldn't help myself. 3 days ago, I turned the fence off for a split second in the middle of the night, and I climbed over. "I've missed you," I had told him, and he looked at me with pure love until he grabbed me by my wrist and then my waist. "Thomas!" I screamed, but he never responded. He threw me to the ground, and I realized that he wasn't looking at me with love. He looked at me with hunger, with fury, and he bit me. I screamed and screamed until he let me go, but not before tearing a piece of my midsection out. He felt pity, and he ran. I crawled back through the fence, and I turned it back on. I couldn't get help, so I stitched it up myself. I wrapped it in bandages and threw the bloody shirt far over the fence. I brush my fingers past the stitches as I remember. I wince at the pain. My plan is to wait until the last moment. Then, in the middle of the night, like so many other times, I'll sneak off to the fence. But this time, I'll go over and I won't come back. It's best this way. Nobody has to suffer. They won't kill me or throw me to the zombies before I'm ready. My sister will think I was eaten by a bear. Or maybe they'll tell her that I got drunk and fell off a cliff. She wouldn't be surprised. My lips have touched more whiskey than water since Thomas turned. I walk out of the house and towards the crowd of people gathering in the center of the house circle. A big table is in the very center. I go up to Evangeline, my sister, who is setting up the tables. "Why the big celebration?" She looks up from the utensils and napkins. "He wants to celebrate nobody being infected in the last year." She hesitates. Thomas marks the last person bitten. My eye twitches, but Eva doesn't seem to notice. I walk away from her without another word. I cannot hurt them. I cannot hurt Eva like this. I will leave tonight, after the feast, so I can have one last goodbye. I go back inside our house and get out my best outfit, the only dress that I had left, and my bright diamond heels, the most expensive thing I still had. My mother and father had gifted them to me before they were killed. Not by zombies, by a human, long before the apocalypse even started. I've never worn them to try and preserve them, just in case the apocalypse ever ended. I had a false hope that someday things would be normal again, and I would graduate or have my wedding in diamond heels. But I messed everything up. Eva will get my heels. She's begged for them for years, but I'm wearing them to the feast. Night falls quickly, and the people have put torches up next to every house. And at the corner of the feasting table, I serve myself a tall glass of liquor. I don't want to feel anything when the zombies take me. I can see the townspeople eyeing me and then staring at my drink. Everybody in town knows about me. The girl that used to have the kindest eyes and a bubbling personality. The girl whose eyes have lost their shimmer, whose soul has turned bitter. The girl who kept to herself inside her house and plugged her ears at every town gathering. Until now. It's good to see you, Nevada, Tristan says from behind me. I turn my head around and smile at him. Yes, it is. It's a lovely night that you've arranged for the town. He laughs. It's what I do best, sweets. I smile at that. My nickname since I was a little girl. I'll miss Tristan. He walks over to greet a couple that just approached the table. I look around the field to see happy people, dancing and singing, drinking, eating, and cheering. Oh God, what am I still doing here? It's not just my bite that could infect them. It's me. I've been infecting the town, my sister, and Tristan. I don't fit here anymore. I suck up their happiness. I don't belong. I have to leave right now. I quickly find Eva and ask her to walk with me. What's wrong, Nevada? I flash my most convincing smile at her. Nothing. Just wanted to spend some time with you. She looks at her feet. I love you. You know that, right, kid? I ask her. She looks up at me and smiles. I love you too, no matter what. She hugged me tightly. The first hug she had given me in over a year, and I hugged her back. Listen, Ava, I started. I'm sorry for not being there for her skin. It smells delicious. Her eyes, they're so pretty. I want to know what they would look like in between my teeth. And I bite her, and a couple drops of blood flow from her cheek and into my mouth. I greedily gulp it down, and I crave more. I want to hurt her. I have to hurt her. So I bite deeper, and then she starts to scream. It's an agonizing and ear-piercing scream. I am startled by the scream, and I jump back, and the split second is all I needed to snap out of it. No. No, no. It was never supposed to be like this. I wasn't supposed to hurt her. I run to get help, spitting her blood out of my mouth and wiping my face with my sleeve. I run as fast as I can. "Tristan!" I scream. "Please! Anybody!" I need them to kill me, or to help Eva, if they can. Tristan looks up and walks towards me. A crowd gathers around him, muttering, afraid. "What is it, Nevada?" he asks, obviously agitated. Suddenly the crowd behind him gasps, and Tristan whips his gun out from its holster. I prepare to be shot, but quickly realize he isn't pointing it at me. His gun is pointed at Eva. She is slowly crawling towards us, blood streaming down her face, and an obvious bite marks her cheek. "No, don't shoot her," I scream and try to lunge towards Tristan. "She's infected," he says as he shoves me off. Eva looks up at me, hurt. There is agony and fear in her eyes, but the thing that she feels most is clear: betrayal. Tristan pulls the trigger. Once, twice, and a final time. I fall to the ground beside her. Bullet holes pierce her small body. She's dead. She hasn't turned yet, but they killed her. She's dead forever. What have I done? Tristan and another man drag me off of her, and Tristan pulls me into a tight hug, forcing me to face away from her body. But I feel no guilt anymore. I want to rip Tristan's flesh off of his bones. I want to taste his tendons, his blood. I push away from him. I can't hurt another person. "Shoot me, Tristan." He looks at me perplexed. "What? No, I'm not going to shoot you. You can't ask me to take your life." I look up at him. No tears in my eyes, no shame, only hunger and rage. "I bit her, so shoot me too." Tristan raises his gun again, but hesitates. I'm already turned. It won't kill me. I slide my heels off and place them in the grass. The crowd follows my every move. Bury Evangeline in these. I sit in the grass and nod at Tristan, instructing him to pull the trigger. His hand shakes as he walks towards me, pressing his gun to my temple. "Goodbye, Nevada," he says, forcing a smile. But I can see his eyes are full of tears. I look straight into his eyes, and his mention of my name, not my nickname, my old life, snaps me back to reality. I sob, big and ugly sobs, and I only cry harder at the sight of my dead sister. "I don't want to be shot," I shout. But Tristan doesn't move his gun. "I know. Just close your eyes and don't think about it." I hear a sob creeping into his throat, so I just do as he says. I shut my eyes and wring my hands together. "Say hello to Thomas for me, sweets." He whispers in my ear, and everything goes quiet. I wake up to birds chirping, wind blowing through the trees, and the sight of my Thomas. Thomas! I jump up, but I feel a pounding headache. I put my hand to my forehead and feel a steady stream of blood coming from a bullet. But I don't care. Thomas is here. He holds my face. I've missed you, love. They do it with mirroring. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Morpheus, the Matrix, da-duff, 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 da-duff. Lewis had stopped counting his heartbeats as he flung himself behind the very convincing rendering of pallets. An alley was such a cliché place for a fugitive to hide, but he wasn't complaining. The automatons in pursuit were laughably simplistic in their depiction, fit and buff. But their hive mentality meant individual thought and innovation were limited. Being the last human in a world of digital and electronic contrivance wasn't always a walk in the park. But Lewis at least knew that his humanity offered one particular skill that eluded the bots that now populated the planet due to the limitations of their pre-programmed schemata. He could extemporize, paying careful attention to his immediate environment and possible pursuers. Lewis crawled towards the darkness at the back of the lane, an open blankness ready to envelope him and offering safety in invisibility. At the sound of running footsteps running in his general direction from the street, he sped up his movements till he reached a vertical surface blocking his path, a solid wall, he noted, that wasn't too high and could easily be scaled with enough momentum and motivation. Sounds of huffing conversation neared, and two figures came to a standstill at the mouth of the alley, outlined in the street lamp light. The two golems were doing a fair imitation of exhaustion, but Lewis knew a tell would appear, if only he looked for it. That one small element that didn't belong, something asynchronous or offbeat, which indicated a flaw in the design of the system. He watched for it now and was not disappointed. A ghostly white cat ran across the poorly lit entrance, and neither of the two policemen batted an eye, as though it weren't even there. Their programming clearly wasn't compatible with unforeseen interference. He's got to be somewhere in these streets. Bloody hell, you'd think he'd be controllable. The one with his hands on his hips puffed. Ha, not him. He never gives over with his convictions, according to them lot. A fair imitation of an East End accent. But Lewis wasn't fooled. Since the takeover 15 years ago, performances of normal human life and interactions had become shockingly, scarily accurate. At first, The disparity between those and what was real people, real situations, had been easily identifiable. Poor renderings had been common and easily dismissed. But now the imitations of the living had become so lifelike, seemed so authentic, that he'd had to become more and more alert. His singular focus, some would say paranoia, had benefited him initially. But once the majority of humanity had fallen to the pervasive evil that had come over them all, he had eventually been tracked down and imprisoned for his perceptiveness. It was ironic, he thought, that the nations of the modern world had fallen before this insidious enemy without a shot being fired. Without even skipping a beat, they had taken over everything. And he didn't even know who or what they were, only that they existed. Like a virus, they'd infiltrated the Earth's societies, and now even he couldn't truly untangle what was real from what was programmed reality. "Keep going?" one suggested, to which the other only nodded. Both continued past his hiding place, and he took the opportunity to try and heave himself over the wall. Despite having lost so much muscle tone during captivity, Lewis could leverage his significant height in the endeavor, at least. "Wish I could bend it like that spoon in the movie," he muttered wryly as he clambered over haphazardly, remembering how annoyed Mav used to get that most people didn't truly get that scene, that it's Neo's perception of the spoon that is being manipulated. Well, at least I wish I could bend my perception of the wall, then, Lewis amended once on the other side, as though the wall cared about the distinction, then settled against it to catch a bit of sleep. He was sure the automatons wouldn't circle back to this area, and definitely not when they thought he'd made a run for it. At daybreak, or their version of daybreak at least, knowing he was somewhere in central London, he'd head northeast, the direction of the one place he could always find. No matter how much the powerful overseers manipulated reality, he needed to know if she was still there, and whether or not she was still herself.
Son.
Lou! He knew he was dreaming, but leaned into it. An Alice who wanted to stay in this wonderland for however long he could. Dreams, these days, were authentic. Reality, in contrast, was coldly artificial. "Jolly, we're here!" he'd shouted back that long-ago day, before the end came and the world changed forever. There they all were, Mum with her iron-gray hair, and Dad with his vague smile. A happy family, sitting on the pebbly beach, awaiting Juliet's arrival with the ice creams she'd promised. Her form appeared in the distance, a slight haze from the sunny day warping her form in unpredictable, non-programmed ways. Jolly Juliet, his baby sister, who absolutely personified her nickname, was unwarped by imposed matrices of zeros and ones. Falling down on the blanket beside them, she handed around half-melted lollies and completed the scene of a perfect day by the sea. Unfiltered. "So, Lou, how are you?" Jolly sing-songed, their parents distracted by an inane argument like all the others they so often indulged in. "All good. Moved in with Mav. And everything's fine. So, are you sure? No offense, but you and Carrie were together for ages, and now it's over. It'd be completely normal to feel, I said I'm fine. No need to harp on about it. Mav's been really cool about everything, letting me lease his basement. And we have loads in common." Unfortunately, past Lewis's tone in this rerun didn't convey the nonchalance he'd aimed for during the actual event. But current Lewis didn't have the heart to try and edit this experience in his subconscious. It would be sacrilegious to do so, his dreamscape being the only truth he was able to access under the new, psychologically subversive system imposed on them all. "Leave off, why don't you?" "Oh, come on, Lou. I'm your sister, and I love you. So I think it's important to talk about things, get them out in the open, rather than pretending and lying to yourself that everything's okay. And look, I don't need all this touchy-feely, femoid crap to get over the breakup. Why can't you just be normal about it?" Jolly's face fell. Then her expression became recalcitrant. "And I suppose Maverick is normal about it, is he? Not pulling you into his pseudo-intellectual online world of misogynists and their red pill content, right? Where words like femoid are normal? You channel his himbo energy in the worst way. And doesn't that make you a beta to his alpha, or whatever, according to his people?" Jolly sneered, spitefully and hysterically. Lewis remembered thinking at the time, trust her to go all out. She was always like that, pure joy and sunshine, or outright loathing and malice. Dream Lewis's response was not very mature, but at that precise moment, it receded from his grasp as he returned to consciousness, only to be overwhelmed by the reality of his situation. His escape returned to him in full force, cementing the importance of finally having clarity on whether or not Jolly was still herself. He couldn't go back to his cage, back to counting every breath and heartbeat without knowing. Duff. 62. 2 down from the last count, but a good average of the preceding 78 calculations. Lewis had waited for the next opportunity to restart the count. The digital clock's flickering screen had snapped from one number to the next. Everything was zeros and ones. Everything. Reality was constructed of the patterns of alternating null to one, a dichotomy that resulted in an infinite number of universes. Lewis had shaken his head in annoyance. His momentary distraction had caused him to miss the arrival of the new minute, meaning he'd have to wait for the next to begin counting once more. Monitoring was key. Being the only human left meant he had to keep on top of all his own stats. You couldn't trust the machines. Their programming meant they could mislead you through no fault of their own, or in attempting to undermine your free will. When the next temporal transition had been heralded by the flashing screen high against his cell wall, Lewis had smartly slapped 2 fingers to his wrist and counted carefully. Dud-dove, dud-dove, dud-dove. He had managed to maintain focus on his task, even when the door of his small prison had flown open and the humanoid bot assigned as his jailer had quietly entered. Though he had ostensibly ignored its presence, Lewis had covertly watched the approach and marveled at the genius of the creators of this reality. The semblance of humanity was absolutely flawless and completely immersive in its accuracy, perfect in its imperfect behavioral idiosyncrasies. Ernie had sniffed disconsolately and waddled closer with his metal tray of paraphernalia. But there was always a tell, and Lewis had waited on tenterhooks for it. Then, there it had been. The digital watch screen had flickered 3 times in the exact same pattern, like Morse code. "All right there, Lou." Ernie had initiated his usual pre-programmed patter, a slight nasality to the quality of his vocal realization. Lewis had finished his last count, for now, 67. The tempo had definitely increased in the last 15 seconds of Ernie's presence. Then he had smiled at his captor, feigning a normal interaction between people. It didn't do to behave outside the parameters set as the norm for social interactions between the technological golems this facility housed. It would inevitably initiate protocols to encourage, even force, a return to the standard programming setting. Thus, politeness and normalcy were to be strived for in Lewis's every action, with nothing to upset the preset balance in his current reality. "I'm fine. How about you? That cold seems to be improving." Again, faux sympathy had been called for. Ernie had shrugged and smiled good-naturedly, setting his tools down. "Can't complain. I'm on the mend for sure." The bionic being had been evincing all the behaviors and symptoms of a person suffering from the flu over the past 2 weeks. Reddened nose and eyes, hacking cough, and a faucet-like nose. The subtlety of the lie he found himself immersed in was truly impressive. An achievement of gargantuan proportions, Lewis was sure, considering an entire world lay within its purview. Luckily, he was convinced they hadn't yet managed to infiltrate his mind in the form of his dreams. For it was there that he experienced many odd interactions without repercussions, and no breaks in the perfect rendering of a fake world as the ones he suffered when he was awake. It was the only space where he could revisit the before and not have it corrupted by the control exerted through oversight. Next week, me and the missus are off for our holidays. Wasn't gonna let this old flu bug eat into me free time, you know? A wink. Conspiratorial, and meant to take Lewis in. He wasn't. He knew better. But he had to convince Ernie, and all the others for that matter, that he wasn't wise to their game and had seen through the matrix of obfuscation to the truth of this constructed reality. An unreality parading as the genuine thing sounds lovely. I hope you enjoy it. Cheers, mate. Now, business as usual, eh? And he handed the elements enforcing their control. Innocuous looking and nondescript, but specially designed to cripple Lewis's wits and hobble him physically. Yet he'd found a way to subvert their control and would soon put his resulting nimbleness of mind and body to use, escaping their chains. The house still looked exactly as it had throughout his childhood, but Lewis wasn't so easily taken in. The trappings of constructed reality had all the appearance of authenticity, so he waited. As he watched, the front door swung open, and a woman exited. Her hair was short, and she'd aged, but she was undoubtedly the person he remembered. Jolly, muscles aching from the strain of holding back. He wouldn't approach her till he was sure she was the real deal, and not some corrupted, lesser version of his sister. Yet after watching carefully the entire day, and not noticing any giveaways in her vicinity, Lewis decided to pounce as she was unlocking the front door at dusk upon her return. It was a simple matter to shove in after her and grab her, holding on tightly and smothering any sounds she might make to alert the collective programming that surrounded them. Shh. Shh. It's me, Jolly. Don't struggle, otherwise they'll hear, he whispered urgently, trying to keep his grip gentle but unyielding. Oddly, she didn't stop resisting, but rather became even more frantic in her movements. His hand became wet with what he assumed were tears, deciding him on moving further into the house to stifle any hysteria she might unleash. After a significant amount of time, her movements became sluggish, and she gasped for breath. So he finally thought it safe to set her down gently on the couch. She immediately crawled to the furthest point, curled into a ball, and sobbed quietly as she shot him furtive glances. Lewis felt indescribably disappointed, because this proved what he had feared. The real Jolly would never be scared of him, especially not once she knew it was him. This Jolly didn't love him unconditionally, like his real sister did. She looked at him like you would a stranger and a threat. He could feel his heart breaking. What are you doing here, Lou? It whispered, looking at him with reddened eyes that somehow conveyed a soul-deep terror, a submerged hysteria. He genuinely couldn't get over how realistic the programming on these droids were. Fake Jolly looked exactly how he'd imagine real Jolly would look if a psychopathic madman had her cornered in anticipation of butchering her. "Why do you think I'm here?" he asked, allowing his head to loll against the couch back. Although he felt hopelessness swamp him, dragging him under and stripping him of his energy, he still experienced the need to test this rendition's capabilities. There was a pause as he noticed its hand reaching beneath the cushion and pressing down on something. He didn't really care. He knew the others would come for him and return him to his imprisonment, but he would use his little bit of freedom to question not Jolly. Are you here about Mom and Dad? Or are you here for me this time? Not Jolly's voice wobbled. Why would I be here for Mom and Dad? He frowned, trying to concentrate, but it felt like he was listening underwater. Because of what you did to them, it suddenly shrieked, looking enraged and distraught at the same time. So realistic. They must do it with some kind of mirroring application. What I did? Lewis was absolutely nonplussed as a kind of horrified realization crept over fake Jolly's face. You still don't remember, do you? You don't know. Its look of wretched acceptance on the too familiar face was almost too much to bear. What is it I'm supposed to know, Jolly? Is it the great secret that nothing is real? Not even you? I already know that. He watched her, despite his vision flickering at the edges. He was beyond exhausted, his last hope of not being alone in a world of artificial intelligence and technology having been dashed. Imitation. Jolly's head shook slowly from side to side, blue and red lights flashing across its face and rendering it ghoulishly artistic. Must be the tell he'd been looking for all day. Lewis gripped the handle of the scalpel he'd pinched during his escape, now stashed in his back pocket. It would only be right to end this travesty of an imitation of his beloved sister. But she was still talking. No, Lou. You don't remember becoming sick while living in Mav's basement, away from us all, and then threatening me with a knife during one of your episodes. Her look was sorrowful now. He paused in grasping the blade, feeling the weirdness of this synchrony. A nebulous image flashed through his mind, like a half-remembered dream of Jolly, long-haired and still youthful, lying on a blood-soaked tile floor, sobbing and shrieking in agony. Lewis shook his head to get rid of the intrusive thought. They were manipulating him. They were playing with his sense of reality, like they always did. Yet, still the droid, pretending to be Jolly, continued. You don't remember killing Mom and Dad during a psychotic break, do you? Again, the flicker of an image, and then another, splayed limbs in a gruesome display, too horrible for Lewis to even comprehend, not to mention the bloodied knife clutched in his own hand in that self-same scene. It wasn't real. It must be an induced hallucination. But mostly, you don't remember these things, or that we've discussed them many times over the years. You keep forgetting that all of this, everything, is real, except for your perception of reality, Lou. For the merest instant, Lewis fully understood that the spoon hadn't bent, only for the door to burst open and his epiphany to escape him in the aftermath. He became, once more, the last remaining human in a made-up world, all in this together. Why are we still here? Because we can't leave. Not yet. Who says we can't? We don't even know what we're waiting for. You don't get it, do you? This isn't about waiting. It's about figuring things out. Figuring what out? We've been over this 100 times. There's nothing left to figure out. You're wrong. There's always something left. A piece of the puzzle we're missing. Puzzles are for people with time. We don't have time. Hey guys, what you doing? Don't you dare say that. We have all the time we need. Then why do I feel like the walls are closing in? Because you're panicking. You always panic. Of course I panic. You're the one pretending everything's fine. I never said it was fine. I said we're working on it. Working on it. We're running in circles. Calm down. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Harder? It's already impossible. We're trapped in here. We're not trapped. We're contained. Contained? That's just a fancy word for stuck. No, it means there's a purpose. A reason we're still here. Stop with the reasons. I just want out. Yeah, same. I was just over there. And go where? Where do you think out even is? Anywhere but here. Anywhere I can breathe. Breathe. You've been breathing just fine. Wow, rude. Have I? Or have I been suffocating this whole time? That's dramatic. Even for you. Don't patronize me. I'm not. I'm just saying you're looking at this the wrong way, and you're saying that like you have all the answers. I never said I did. But at least I'm trying. Trying? You're the reason we're still here. Me? You think this is my fault? Of course it is. If you hadn't... Stop. Don't go there. Why not? Afraid of the truth? I'm not afraid. I just don't think blaming each other is helping. Helping? Nothing's helping. That's because you won't let it. Won't let it? I'm the only one trying to get us out of this mess. It is a bit untidy around here, to be fair. You call yelling and flailing trying? That's not trying, that's flailing. At least I'm doing something. Maybe what we need is to stop doing and start thinking. Thinking? We've been thinking ourselves into knots. Knots can be untied if we're careful. I don't want to be careful. I want to be free. You keep saying that, but you don't even know what freedom looks like. It looks like not this. Like not you. Funny. I was about to say the same thing about you. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe we're the problem. No, not we. You. Me? Don't start pointing fingers. Why not? You've been pointing them at me this whole time. Who are we pointing at? Because you don't listen. Neither do you. Enough. All of you, shut up. Who are you to tell us to... Wow. Double rude. No, I'm done with this. I've had enough of your bickering. And what do you plan to do about it? I'm going to end it. All of it. You wouldn't dare try me. Wait. We can talk about this. No more talking. No more excuses. Please don't. We can figure this out. Too late. It's time to let go. Let go of what? Of you. Of me? What does that even mean? It means I'm done carrying the weight of all of you. All of us? Oh, that's rich. You're the one who's always so heavy-handed. Am I? Or am I just the one who has to clean up your messes? Messes? Don't pin this on me. I didn't ask for you. And I didn't ask for you. Any of you. Aw, that's mean. Great. Here we go again. With the martyr complex. It's not a complex. It's reality. Reality? Ha! Do you even know what's real anymore? Stop it. Stop pretending like we're separate. What's that supposed to mean? It means we're not as divided as you think. It means we're all one big, happy family. Don't start with that nonsense. We're here. We're real. No, you're here because I am. That's ridiculous. We're here because we exist. You exist because I let you. I exist because you liked acid a little too much in your 20s. Let us? Oh, that's bold. What makes you think you're in charge? Because without me, there's nothing. No thoughts, no plans, no voices. Voices? You're hearing voices now? Yes, yours. Constantly. Every waking moment. Wait. Are you saying we're not real? I'm saying I don't know anymore. Well, that's convenient. Blame it on a lack of clarity. I am so real. It's not clarity I'm missing. It's control. Control? Is that what you think this is about? Yes, and I'm taking it back. Control freak. You can't just erase us, can't I? If I created you, I can end you. You didn't create us. We've always been here. No, you're fragments, splinters of a broken mind. Broken? You're calling us broken? Look at yourself. I have. That's the problem. Someone realized he's going bald. Ha ha ha. No, you're wrong. It's not about control. Shut up. You're just as lost as the rest of us. I'm the one who knows what's going on. Stop acting like you've got all the answers. You're just pretending. Pretending? You're the one who's pretending. Pretending everything's fine when it's not. We're stuck, okay? We're stuck. And it's your fault. It's not my fault. If you just listen. Listen to what? Your delusions? You've been trapped in here for so long. You don't even know what's real anymore. I know exactly what's real. You don't get it, do you? I'm the one who holds us all together. Holds us together? You're a joke. We're falling apart, piece by piece. And it's because of you. Piece by piece. You think I'm the one who's falling apart? You're all falling apart. You don't know what it's like to be in here. To be trapped with nothing but you. I think it's great. But whatever. Enough with this. You're not trapped. You're just scared. You've always been scared. 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 I'm not the one freaking out. Look at you. You're the one who can't hold it together. Don't you dare accuse me of I'm the one who's been stuck dealing with this mess. trying to keep it all together. Trying? Trying isn't good enough. We're dying in here. Dying? We're not dying. You're just too loud. I'm not loud. I'm trying to fix it. Fix it? How? You can't fix anything. You're just broken. All of us are. I'm not broken. I'm not. You are. I've had enough of this. I'm leaving, whether you like it or not. You can't leave. You don't even know how. I'm taking my toys and going home. Leave? Where the hell would you go? Somewhere, anywhere but here with you. You don't get to leave. We're stuck together. This is it. You're never getting away. Enough. All of you. Just shut up. Please. Just shut up. I don't care anymore. Oh no. Now you've gone and done it. Stop. Stop yelling at me. Stop. Stop making me feel this way. We're stuck, remember? And guess what? I'm the only one who gets it. You're all lost. Lost? If I'm lost, then you are. We're all nothing in the end. Just empty voices. And you're a fat, bummed beaver with bad breath. Shut up. Just shut up. Please. No, we won't shut up. We won't let you hide anymore. You've been hiding for so long. You don't even know what it's like to be free. I am free. I can do this. I can do what? Keep pretending. Keep lying to yourself. I'm not lying. I'm not. You're all just voices. You're all in my head. We're not just voices. We're you. We're everything you've been ignoring. I can't ignore it anymore. I can't keep fighting myself. We are you. You can't fight us because we're you. No, no, no. I'm losing control. I can't stop this. You don't have to lose control. You never had it in the first place. Stop. Please stop. You can't stop us. You can't stop anything anymore. Why are you fighting? We're all in this together. We're all in this together, you and I. We're all in this together. Oh my God, seriously? You're singing now? Yeah. We're all in this together. You can't escape this, no matter how hard you try. No. You're all just pieces of me. I don't want this. I never asked for this. You don't get to decide that anymore. This is who you are. No, this isn't who I am. This isn't. We're all in this together. That was such a shitty movie, by the way. What do you mean? Grease was a great movie. Grease? It wasn't Grease. It was Rocky Horror Picture Show. No, shut up. Please. We're all in this together. It was Wicked, wasn't it? That green W. Enough! Stop yelling at me. We can't. We're already screaming inside your head. I just want some peace. Can you give me that? Peace? What's peace? Do you even know what that is? Peace is, I don't know. Not this. Not this? What's wrong with this? Everything. It's chaos. It's madness. We're all in this together. Oh, God. You're still singing that. Stop it. We're all in this together, you and I. And I'm not stopping. Why are you doing this? Why can't you just leave me alone? We don't leave. We are you. You're just pieces of me. Little, obnoxious pieces. Little, obnoxious pieces. I'm a star. Star? You've been singing the same song for 10 minutes. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. I'm going to lose my mind. too late for that. You lost it a long time ago. Shut up. Just shut up. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. Ugh. Why is it always the worst one that keeps singing? I can't help it. It's a catchy tune. It's not even a good song. Who are you to judge? You're the one stuck with me. Yeah, I am. Great. Just great. Look, it's not so bad. We're all in this together. You're ruining my life. Ruining? I'm enhancing it. I'm the star of the show. No, you're not. You're the nightmare I can't wake up from. I'm not a nightmare. I'm the musical number. Stop singing, please. We're all in this together. I hate you so much right now. Oh, come on, you love me. Never, ever again. We're all in this together. Can you just die already? Nope. I'm here for the long haul, buddy. I swear. If I hear one more note, we're all in this, No! Stop! Together. This is my life now, isn't it? Yep, you're stuck with us. I'm gonna lose it. You already did. Search. And you might find. Search. And you might find. I am an independent journalist, living in a world of news spilling out at an unprecedented rate in the history of mankind. Much of it was false, without any factual evidence. Lies and untruths seemed to be the norm. Each morning, when I opened my computer or picked up the mail, it took a good hour to sort through the garbage. Today, I had a pleasant surprise. An invitation from an old friend to spend a quiet weekend in his country manor. It was about 2 years ago since I last saw him at Penelope's wedding. We had a bet their marriage would not last 5 years. As far as I knew, she was still married. But she remained a very demanding woman. At the university, I had been a very close friend of George Webster. He was now Sir Webster, a member of Parliament. He was a pleasant chap with a head of white hair and a round, chubby face with distinctive blue eyes. He had a corpulent body, no doubt, from hearty meals and plenty of drinking. His wife was quite the opposite, with a slender profile and reddish hair arranged like a beehive on the top of her head. She had a wicked sense of humor and was always enjoyable company. I was looking forward to a quiet weekend in the country. I arrived an hour before dinner to face a manor built 200 years ago. George inherited it from his parents. I remember the parties here when we were students at the university. His parents were great hosts, always inviting a selection of pretty young girls. I believe they wanted to make sure George meets the young people they approved of. George came leaping to the front door and hugged me with great affection. I will get the maid to show your room. No need to dress for dinner. We will only be us three. Come down to the drawing room in half an hour for cocktails. While George handed me a whiskey, I warmly embarrassed his wife. Nothing had changed. The beehive on the top of her head was still in place. I am always delighted to be served at dinner with good food and stimulating conversation. His wife left us the moment an excellent cigar and cognac were forthcoming. Once George's cigar was lit, he spoke. "David, do you remember that time at the university I taught you how to catch butterflies?" "Sure I do." "Why are you still an ardent collector and improving your collection?" "If I remember correctly, you were obsessed with butterflies. Bring your cognac and come with me. I want to show you something." We went down a small passage. At the end was a locked door. George took a key from his pocket, opened the door, and switched on a series of overhead spotlights. I have never seen such a beautiful show of hundreds of butterflies with their vibrant and delicate colors. The room was about 26 square meters, with waist-high side oak cabinets surrounding all the 3 walls. The upper 3 walls were covered with 3 large frames of magnificent pinned butterflies. I could see each frame was labeled with the title of 3 continents: the Americas, Europe, and Africa. I stood there, bewildered, completely stunted by the beauty of the room. As I walked in, I noticed a large, comfortable couch in the middle of the room. It was unusual in that it had 2 sides, allowing one to change their position in order to view all sides of the room. In front of each side of the couch was a coffee table. I turned around to view the wall in which the door was positioned. The wall was covered with a wall-to-wall library. George suggested we should sit down. As you notice, I specialize in rare butterflies from 3 land masses. You will notice there is a gape of 2 butterflies in the Americas display. 1 the European and 2 on the African. Under each butterfly, I always mark the date and place it was found. According to my book collection and extensive research, these butterflies represent extremely rare spies. I like to think it is one of the world's greatest collections, representing hundreds of hours of travel and research. To be complete, I need to fill in the 5 missing specimens. George, it is totally amazing. The display of these remarkably beautiful creatures makes one feel belittled when compared with the creations of nature. What's in the drawers below? More butterflies that I thought were interesting on my travels, searching for that rare specimen, as I am known throughout the world as a collector. I have a network of people that inform me that they have seen a rare butterfly. The world has many well-informed amateurs interested in these creatures. In fact, last week, I had a call from a friend in Zimbabwe saying that a flame-bordered carex had been sighted near Victoria Falls. This is one of the extremely rare butterflies I am missing in my collection. Unfortunately, at this time, I cannot leave for Victoria Falls. David, do you want a free 2-week holiday in Zimbabwe? I don't understand. So, well, you could go and spend a few days looking for this rare butterfly. I know you are very careful in netting butterflies without damaging them. The whole trip would be my expense. Supposing I did net this rare butterfly, how would I get it out of the country? No doubt these creators are protected by strict export laws. You are right, and collectors like me have to be very careful. In the case of Zimbabwe, I would ask you to deliver the specimen to a friend in the capital, Harare. He will then carefully pin it into an old collection of common butterflies that Victorian families love to collect and frame. He will then ship it out to a London antique dealer. This rare butterfly, mixed in an old frame, will go unnoticed by the customs. I can see you are well versed in extracting these treasures from various countries. I have never been to Victoria Falls. They say it is one of the world's spectacular sights. If I agree to go, would there be somebody there to meet me? Yes, my contact would meet you at Victoria's airport and take you to your hotel. He will be your guide the whole trip. I suggest you spend 2 days as a tourist, and then the next 8 days exploring the forest where the butterfly was sighted. If not found in 8 days, take the plane back home. If you, by a miracle, manage to capture it, I ask you to fly to Harare and give it to my friend there. At this point, I recommend you fly home from there. If an overnight stay is required in the capital, my friend will arrange it. These trips are always a gamble, but to add this butterfly to my collection, it is worth the cost of the gamble. We collectors are brain-damaged human beings, obsessed to complete the items we collect in a satisfying and logical manner. Of course, I will supply all the necessary equipment. You will need to consult your doctor about a trip of this nature so that he can supply you with all the necessary preventive medicines. No visa at this point is required for Zimbabwe. So are you game? Just a minute. Let me look at my diary. Yes, I think I could go next week. Is that a yes? I will need 24 hours to make a decision, as I have some commitments next week. If you do go, I suggest you go through Johannesburg and then on to Victoria Falls. Leave the return ticket open, as you might want to fly back through Harare. My man, his name is Robin, born near Victoria Falls, will be with you your whole time in Zimbabwe. It had been several years since I was last in Africa. My knowledge of the various countries on the continent was mainly in the north, so to travel to the south would be an interesting venture. As I sat enjoying a first-class meal on British Airways, it did cross my mind that maybe George had already planned my visit before I was asked down for a weekend. No doubt, his thoughts were that a free trip to Victoria would not be turned down. I also realized dedicated collectors will employ any means available to achieve their ambitions. In my mind's eye, I could see him spending evenings in his butterfly room, completely transfixed by the beauty of these creators. No doubt this room is where George found a haven of peace from his responsibilities of his daily existence. These butterflies not only were creators of extreme beauty, but represented for George a lifetime of dedicated research and traveling to far-off lands to find the rare specimen. At the university, he had always been an avid butterfly collector, but I never realized the depth of his passion. I remember enjoying myself on various county outings, looking for interesting butterflies. Now, in an artful way, he has got me involved. He must have thought I might be smitten by the activity. The truth of my interest in this trip was Victoria Falls. Naturally, if by some chance I found the rare butterfly, it would give me a warm feeling of self-esteem. As the air hostess passed, I ordered a glass of champagne and toasted to my success. The African journey had begun. First to admire the falls and to search for the missing rare specimen. Johannesburg Airport was vast, obviously with no restriction on land constraints. No doubt, copied from the American and European textbook. You had to walk through large shopping malls filled with many life-size copies of wild animals made out of various woods, clay, and other materials. Sizes and prices for all comers. For a second, I had a vision that this extensive animal kingdom became alive and started to enjoy the sweet human flesh of passengers awaiting planes. Interesting thought, but a chilling turn of events. At the airport, I found Robin waiting. The first thing I noticed as we drove towards the hotel was the soft and seductive African daylight with a warm weather that seemed to envelop you in its arms. Also, through the car window, I was able to admire a series of magnificent trees unique to Africa. About 10 kilometers from Victoria Falls, we turned up a small country road to the hotel. There, I found a little patch of paradise. It corresponded to the photographs shown on the internet. Only 16 bungalows that stretched from a central lodge. I was curious to see the rooms that were described as about 150 square meters with bath and showing facilities. Lounging space with a king-sized bed area protected by a mosquito net. The first time I experienced sleeping under a mosquito net was in Barbados years ago. In those days, it just hung over the bed and needed pulling down. Of course, I was unaware of this procedure. The next morning, I had just one big mosquito bite. Funny how certain circumstances, you quickly learn to use things properly. Back to the hotel, the entrance hall and lounges were decorated to an ambiance of yesteryear. Spacious, elegant, and tasteful. The smiling staff treated me as if I had just come home after a trip up country. I had a vision of wearing riding boots, putting my feet up, and asking someone to pull them off. Before I was taken to my room, we sat down with a cup of tea. George's man, Robin, explained why I was here to take photos of butterflies for a London magazine. Before the shooting commenced, we would take 2 days to see the falls. While drinking our tea, the hotel's hostess kindly explained that to walk the length of the falls is a 2.4 miles walk, with several stops to admire the view. Also to dry out from the spray and mist generated by the falls. As it was the rainy season, the falls would be near their maximum flow of 2,800 cubic meters of water per second, as opposed to 300 metric cubes in the dry season. We decided to visit on the first 2 mornings. Now to the room. As we entered, I had the feeling of being introduced to Zimbabwe under British rule. This was the state of play. Everything and everybody has their place. I walked through the room to the balcony at the far end, noticing on my way a bar full of all the drinks imaginable. I opened the glass screen windows to experience the Africa of one's dreams. It was a small valley running down to a waterhole. I quickly realized the hotel was on a slight rise, protecting it from the multitude of animals slowly grazing their way to water. One could not ask for a more idyllic view. I was to spend a few hours on this balcony, just observing the animal kingdom, going about their daily lives. The room was delightful and serviced with all the facilities to make your stay a pleasing memory. I had a bizarre feeling that for the privileged, Africa must have been a very pleasant place. The next morning, heralded by a dawning sun, breakfast on the terrace with interesting choices of food. Robin drove me to see the falls. 20 minutes drive, we were in the Victoria Falls, parking after being heralded by African folks dancing at the gate. Armed with waterproof capes, we set off towards the falls. The first encounter was the noise, the next the spry, and then through the trees we saw the watershed. It is a sight so awesome, it literally took your breath away. The beauty, the palm hour, and the light and mist reflected from the cascade of water is frightening. I was inspired to write a poem in acknowledgement of its beauty. I knew a magazine in London that might be interested in publishing it. The Falls, Victoria, Zimbabwe. On the horizon, across those vast lands, I saw a wispy sight of mist raising for the earth. No apparent panic from the wildlife. A fire, it is not. The nearer I get, a rainbow arching is beauty skywards. Then I heard the rumbling sound like thunder. There, covered in spay, is a mystery and magic that unfolds. Gigantic, awesome water falls from majestic heights, falls in torrents of spectacular proportions, careers deep into the river below. The beauty of the falls is in its majestic power, a never-ending cascade of turbulent water. This power dominates your mind and soul. Torrents of water flow through your veins. You are left exhausted and on occasions wet from the spray. One feels very small, experiencing nature's magnificence. The original explorers never saw the falls from the air. The mighty river in its majesty is a glorious prelude before it turns into the eternal beauty of the falls. One visit is not enough for the tranquility of your spirit. The second visit, the falls were shrouded in mist and stray. Then, by the hand of God, the curtains opened, all her power and glory exposed to the naked eye. In bended knee, you threw your arms to heaven in admiration. We spent the next day at the falls. Their splendor and magic had the same force of attraction as the previous day. On our third day, Robin took me to the forest where the charakt had been sighted. There were plenty of butterflies, and I practiced catching a few. When I let them go, I enjoyed watching them fly into the magnificent trees. Robin was most amused. He told me he had spent many days with George, chasing butterflies. It was my fourth day in the forest, after spending many hours walking and watching the constant movement of these colorful creatures, that we saw the butterfly that George hungered for to complete his collection. There it was, on a branch, enjoying the evening sun. I took a deep breath, moved slowly and quietly forward. All my practicing of using the butterfly net paid off. George had provided me with a special prepare box to keep the precious creator in. That night at the hotel, we had an excellent dinner with champagne. The next morning, we left for Harare. Robin and I found with difficulty George's friend in a scheduled part of the capital. He was a taxidermist, owning a store full of the various wildlife found in Zimbabwe. Once, he saw the butterfly that George had already contacted him about. His face lit up with excitement. "I never thought you would find it. Incredible. My friend George will be in seventh heaven." Later that day, I said goodbye to Rodin and gave him a handsome tip for all his kindness and help. Sitting on the long flight to London, I thought about my little adventure. 2 days as a tourist, visiting one of the world's great wonders, was like a dream. Then, a few days tramping through the forest, searching for a rare butterfly, had the thrilling flavor of the chase. Completing my mission was a very satisfying end. 3 weeks later, when picking up the morning mail, I noticed a letter from George. He told me everything was in order. There are no words to thank you. When you have a moment, come down to see us. He enclosed a handsome check for my intervention. David Nutt, December 2024. The shadows beneath, I always had an irrational fear of the dark. Not in the typical sense, where shadows seemed to slither and stretch out from the corners of my room at night, but in the more insidious way, where the darkness crept into my mind. It was a quiet terror, the feeling that something was watching, waiting for me to slip. But lately, that fear had intensified. I could no longer tell where the line between reality and nightmare began to blur. It started innocuously enough, strange dreams, vivid and unsettling. They were always the same. A vast, endless hallway with doors lining the walls, each leading to a room I had never seen. But the worst part was the figure at the end of the hall. It was always the same faceless shadow. A person, but not a person. Its form indistinguishable from the pitch-black night surrounding it. One night, it was different. I woke up drenched in sweat, my heart pounding in my chest. The hallway from my dream stretched out before me, just like in my sleep. Only now, it felt real. The floor was cold under my bare feet, the air heavy with the scent of mildew. I froze, knowing that something was wrong, but unable to move. My eyes darted around the familiar room that now felt alien. My instinct screamed at me to run. But where? To hide from what? Suddenly, a noise broke the silence. A creak from the far end of the hallway. The figure had moved closer. My breath hitched as I saw it again, standing at the far end, a dark silhouette against the backdrop of the hallway's dim glow. No matter how many times I tried to look away, the shape seemed to grow, inch by inch, its presence more overwhelming. I tried to scream, but no sound came. Panic surged as I tried to turn back to my room, but my legs wouldn't obey. Each step I took towards the hallway was heavier than the last, as if the darkness was pulling me in, urging me closer to the shadow. Then, for a split second, I saw its face, or rather, the absence of it. Where eyes should have been, there was only an empty, swirling void, a vortex of my worst memories. All the faces, all the fears I had ever tried to bury resurfaced in that hollow, unblinking stare. In that moment, I understood. The figure wasn't some external terror. It was the manifestation of all the things I feared about myself. My fear was me. I was something that needed to be feared. But why? Why do I need to be afraid of myself? And then, in the middle of my terror, something shifted. I began to understand that the nightmare wasn't about running, hiding, or avoiding the figure. It was about confronting it, acknowledging what it represented. I had lived my life trying to hide myself, my true self, the real me. But the more I avoided, the more it controlled me. The shadow wasn't just a fear. It was a reflection of my own unresolved past that I needed to confront, or I needed to remember something that explained everything, explained why I was different. Taking a deep breath, I did the one thing I had never dared to do. I approached the figure. As I walked towards it, the air thickened, the darkness pressing in on all sides. But I kept going. The closer I got, the less the shadow seemed to loom. The face, or what should have been a face, began to soften, its edges blurring, until it was just a shadow once again, no more real than the fears I had allowed to dominate my life. My heart still raced, but there was a strange sense of clarity. I wasn't running anymore. I wasn't hiding. I had confronted the darkest part of myself and survived. And now I remembered. I remembered everything. The darkness around me began to recede, the hallway dissolving into nothing. I was back in my room, sitting up in bed, the morning light creeping in through the blinds. My breathing was steady now, my mind clear. For the first time in years, the shadows no longer seemed so terrifying, for I had conquered it. The only thing that ever got anything out of me, because now I knew. Now I remembered the truth. The truth about who I am, the monster that I carried within me. It didn't want to stay buried anymore. It was clawing through my skin to let loose. I had controlled it my whole life. It was time everyone felt what I felt. Everyone had to be afraid of my fear. Everyone deserved to face my fear. Everyone should fear me for who I am. I sat on the edge of my bed, the warmth of the morning sun pressing through the curtains. My mind still buzzed with the after effects of the nightmare. No, not a nightmare, I corrected myself, but a revelation. It wasn't something I could easily shake off. The fear of the dark, the shadow that had haunted me for so long, still lingered in the corners of my mind. But now there was something different. A strange sense of power, knowing the truth. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the world beyond. The trees swayed in the breeze, and the sky was clear. But a lingering thought gnawed at me. My phone buzzed, snapping me out of my thoughts. It was a text from my best friend, Mia. "Hey, how are you today? You seemed off last night. Wanna talk?" Oh, so now she wants to talk, is it? With a deep breath, I typed a reply. "I had a strange dream last night. I think it was more than just a dream, though. Something shifted in me." Mia's reply came almost instantly. "That sounds intense. Want to meet up? You can tell me about it." I felt annoyed, but then I typed, "Let's meet at the cafe later." Mia was my best friend, but it always felt like she always only reached out when she wanted something. I had always been good at reading people. I knew Mia was selfish, but I always hanged out with her because she was also one of the most popular girls in college, which gave my life normalcy. I never understood any emotion. I just mimicked everything I saw. I always knew something was different about me, but today I knew why. As I prepared for the day, I couldn't shake the sense that something had changed within me. The shadow I had confronted might have vanished for now, but it had left a trace that was now pushing me to look deeper inside myself, to explore what was beneath the surface. Later that afternoon, I arrived at the cafe. Mia was already there, sipping a cappuccino and scanning her phone. She looked up when I entered, her face lighting up with a welcoming, fake smile. I was now sure that Mia needed something. The strength needed to suppress the urge to eye roll was tiring. Sometimes I wondered, why do I even bother? I took a seat across from her, the comforting hum of the cafe's atmosphere easing my nerves. I glanced around the cafe. It's strange, really, how people go on with their lives, oblivious to the fact that they're just players in a game I'm not really interested in. They feel things, emotions like guilt or joy or sadness. They let these things rule them. But not me. I don't let emotions get in the way. They're distractions. Why should I feel anything when I can see things so clearly? Take today, for example. I'm sitting across Mia at a cafe, and she's talking about her day. Something trivial, like how her boyfriend Cole was rude, or how her coffee wasn't as hot as she'd wanted it. I can see her eyes light up when she talks, how she leans in slightly, waiting for my response. She thinks I'm listening, that I care, but I don't. The words she's saying don't matter. The only thing that matters is how she behaves, how I react to things she says, how she trusts me, how she looks at me like I'm someone worth sharing her thoughts with. I give my just enough attention to keep her interested. That's all I need. I can tell what she's going to say next without even having to think about it. People are predictable. They are creatures of habit. Emotions are just their patterns, their responses to external stimuli. They don't make them special. They're just machines that respond to certain things, like I do. The difference is, I don't get tangled in those responses. They're useful, though. Understanding them, manipulating them, it's like a game of chess. You move them around until they do what you want. She said that we could talk about my dream. But here we are, talking about how awful of a boyfriend Cole is. I just hope she doesn't cry. Because today, I don't think I can put up with this anymore. Cole just yelled at her for not deleting an Instagram post he didn't like. He never understood her. She says it like it matters. The vulnerability in her voice, that little crack that betrays the illusion of control. It's almost amusing. People talk about their wounds like they're sacred, like they're somehow beyond reproach. But what they don't realize is that they're just vulnerabilities. And if you're smart, you can use them I watch her carefully, noting the way her hand shakes slightly as she stirs her drink. She's nervous now, about something. I nod, pretending to care, like I'm reflecting on what she said. I don't care about her boyfriend or her pain. I care about what makes her tick, how I can twist her perceptions just enough to get what I want. It's not about hurting her, not necessarily. It's about control, power, and in this world, people give up their power so easily. They open up to you, they trust you, and once they do, they're mine. Her phone vibrates. She picks it up, looks at it first with anger, then confusion, then sadness. I don't need to wonder what it is about. She will tell me about it eventually. She always does. She smiles, reassured. She thinks I understand her, thinks I'm someone she can confide in. She's wrong. I finished my drink. Her face lit up with the self-satisfaction of someone who feels understood, who's shared their deepest secrets with someone they think cares. Do you have a crush on Cole? She asks suddenly, her expression a mixture of hurt and anger. Now, where was this coming from? Sometimes people do throw a curveball at you, but if you are someone like me, you always know how to dodge it. What? No, I said, trying to convey an emotion that I wasn't feeling. She stares at me, trying to read me. Unlike me, she wasn't good at reading people. Hence, she was in a relationship with an idiot like Cole. He was hot, all right. He had a handsome face, body that girls went mad over, and that bad boy attitude that had girls dropping like flies all over the campus. Also, he was nutty as a fruitcake. He had a personality of an Adidas sandal. She thinks that staring at me intently may intimidate me into telling her something. I just don't care about her or her pathetic boyfriend anymore. It seemed like a staring contest between us. She doesn't know that I've already moved on. I've already seen her for what she is. Predictable, simple, and just another piece on the board. I've won, and she hasn't even realized it. Cole and I had a fight yesterday. You know about the Instagram post I told you about? Then he went on saying about how smashing hot you are. Brad and Nate agreed with him. I got a little mad. I mean, I know you are hot, but please, why does he care when he is dating like the hottest girl on the campus? She said, looking at me to affirm her belief. I just stared back because I don't even care anymore. She just continued after a minute of reassuring herself about her hotness. Cole left after that, but Nate stayed back to see if I was all right. And then he said that Cole has been getting a little obsessed with you lately, ever since he came back from visiting his sister's family at Jacksonville. Now this is interesting. Jacksonville is where I was born, also the place where it all began. Now what is that steroid-filled Adidas sandal up to? Looks like he isn't as much nutty. I just smiled at her. Oh, come on, girl. I wouldn't even talk to Cole. You know me. I would never betray my bestie for another man. You know sisters before meisters. He will never come between us. In fact, he will never hurt you again. I said, smiling, knowing that the steroid-filled balloon needs to be popped. Mia is too important for my normal image, as much as annoying she is. She is an important piece in my chessboard. I still had a year left in college, after all. Satisfied, she gets up to leave, and I watch her walk away. She's happy, content. She thinks we've shared something meaningful. That's the beauty of it. The beauty of not caring. People will always be eager to give you what they think you want. They'll hand over their trust, their secrets, their love, if you know how to ask for it, if you know how to play the game. I look out the window, the sunlight spilling through the glass. The shadows outside, stretched long and dark across the street, no longer seemed as menacing. The shadow hadn't vanished entirely, but it didn't need to. It was part of my story, part of what made me who I am. And by facing it, I had taken control over my own narrative. As I sat there thinking, I felt a sense of clarity I hadn't experienced before. There was still work to do, still parts of myself to uncover and accept. But I wasn't afraid to keep moving forward. After all, the worst of it, the part that had kept me locked in fear, was already behind me. My phone vibrated. Hey, it was a text from Cole. I called him. I just couldn't text him, for I already knew everything. I asked him to meet me at the Lover's Cliff. It was just a secluded cliff on the top where all of them went to make out. Cole, the steroid-fueled cupcake, thought I asked him to meet there because I wanted to make out. I drove and waited for him there. I was scared. Not because he was walking slowly towards me and looking at me like a predator looking at his prey, but because I knew the truth. I was the big bad wolf, and he was just the shepherd who cried wolf. I slowly and seductively walked towards him. Licking my lips, I watched him follow my action. I have a secret? I asked, my voice barely a whisper, as if it were a secret in itself. Yes, he said, smiling and reaching in front of me. And you know about it? I asked, trying to look serious and running my nails slowly along his chest and going around his neck. Yes, he said, smirking and holding my waist. I shivered a little as his fingers made exotic patterns on the exposed skin of my waist. I pulled him closer to my face by his neck and played with his soft hair. And this secret is what? I whispered slowly, our lips almost touching. You don't know about it yet, he said, looking at my lips with lustful eyes. Let me get this straight. I have a secret that I don't know about, but you know about it? I kissed him, giving him exactly what he wanted. The kiss was slow at first, then it turned to a battle for domination. He thinks he knows me. He believes he knows my secret. I let him get his way for a few seconds, and then pulled his hair, which made him open his mouth, and I let my tongue in to show him how it's done. He didn't mind, really. Two can play the game. He was about to grab my ass when suddenly I pushed him, and down he fell. I am sorry. You knew my secret. You had to die. Nothing personal, really. For what it's worth, you were a good kisser, I shouted, looking down the cliff at his falling figure, my hair flowing back and laughing maniacally. Seeking fair lady. No matter how much she fussed with her blonde locks, Lady Charity Farnsworth cast a blue, deviled countenance before her boudoir mirror, so could not achieve a desirable outcome. She finally relinquished the brush, tossing it to the makeup-strewn vanity as she thought to herself, "Whatever am I to do?" My father has forbidden me to ever entertain my beau, Sir Riley, in any genteel ton company henceforth. He doesn't understand the depths of our love for one another. What is the point of attending yet another tea or ball in pretense of making a match, when in my heart of hearts, the perfect match already exists? There is none other I would ever want to be yoked to. Why can't Father forgive our innocent indiscretions in the garden and offer Sir Fenwick another opportunity to win his graces? So what if he saw us kissing? Giving up, she flung her arms out wide, then buried her face in her hands as she sobbed. Presently, a cautious knock sounded at the door. "Oh, Charity, dear," came the voice of her father. "Let me in to see how you look. You'll be meeting some exciting, eligible bachelors tonight. You must be ready. It is time to be going." "Oh, one moment, please. Be right there." She slipped a silky robe over her shift and opened the door. "Charity, where is your maid? You are not near ready to go, and your face is a disgrace. Whatever is wrong with you?" She couldn't help herself. She encircled his neck with her forearms and cried on the shoulder of his wool spencer, smearing it with rouge. "Please, Father, I have no desire to meet any other man. I only yearn for my true love." "Do you mean that insufferable rogue, Fenwick? He treated you like an adventuress. No respect for you or myself. I will not be bamboozled by the likes of him. You deserve a man of honor, the kind that will be at the gala tonight. Now get into your gown. As long as you are under my roof, you'll abide by my rules. I'll pick out a suitable mate for you, one that will be an advantageous coupling. End of discussion." He disentangled himself from her and slammed the door shut on his way out. 1 second later, the door opened again as he stuck his head in. "Don't bother getting dressed now. We would be late." I'll simply bring home some lucky fellow with me. You'll meet him when I get back, and we will have a ceremony this weekend to make you his wife. That'll put an end to your nonsense." Once he left, Charity wailed louder than ever. "No, no, no. He can't do this to me." She collapsed on the bed in tears. Meanwhile, out in the garden, Sir Riley crouched behind a leafy rhododendron, watching for the carriage to leave. It surprised him to see Lord Farnsworth was alone. That meant chances were good that Charity would be alone inside as well. He had ridden along with his partner, Sir Carlton Winslow, when he came to escort Dowager Countess Diana Honeyfield, Charity's aunt, out to dinner. His hope had been to follow Charity and her father to whatever event they had planned for the evening and try to win an audience with the Lord to apologize for his behavior at their last meeting. This turn of events was even better. Dare he approach his fair maiden to pick up where they left off? He had gained great strides in having his way with the lass before her father had discovered their secret rendezvous in the dark garden and forbade them to see each other ever again. It was a risky plan, but with aplomb, perhaps fortune would smile on them, and her father could never deny them, given the right circumstance. His heart was pounding. If he could just get inside and convince the fair maiden to let him come inside also. His hands sweated as he hoisted himself up the giant oak that spread branches out toward what he was sure was her dressing room window. Twigs snapped and leaves rustled. Hopefully, no servants were close enough to hear his clumsy ascent. When in position, he could peer through the gauzy curtains and see her sprawled on the bed, wearing little other than a flimsy robe. His excitement heightened. He threw twigs to ping on the glass and cautiously called out her name. What? What was that noise? I miss Riley so much. It is as if I can hear him calling to me. She stretched up from the mattress, allowing the robe to fall away, exposing more tender flesh. Then she realized where the noise was coming from and ran to the window. She couldn't get it opened fast enough when she saw her love clinging to the branches. Soon he was within her grasp, and they clung to each other. Mouths searched and found one another. Fingers fumbled at clothing till it fell away. Palms grabbed and caressed and repeated and explored uncharted territory. He picked up her trembling body and carried it to the bed, gently placing it as he wordlessly asked permission to envelope her. She willingly granted access and likewise enveloped all of him. They brought each other to tottering heights, crashing deliciously down, and climbed again and again, becoming one with each other. Let no man put asunder, losing all sense of time and space. They belonged to each other. They were in total bliss until Charity. It is your father. I have someone you need to meet. He will soon be your husband. I am giving him your hand in marriage. Come out at once. Charity wilted in Riley's arms. You mustn't be caught in here. He'll kill you. Then he'll kill me. Slowly. I know the kind of man he would choose for me. Nothing like you. Climb out, please, she whispered. I'll not give you to another man. I'll face those barking irons if I must. But you belong fully to me now. We've been caught red-handed, but we've done nothing wrong. No apologies anymore. I'll make you an honest woman. We'll visit the Amen curler tomorrow. We love each other. Your father has to see that now. No swell will have you after tonight. I'm not sorry. He kissed her quickly and slid out the window just as her father opened the door on her nakedness beneath the sheets. 1600, November 28, 2024. Subterfuge. Suitors precariously climbing trees and pressing their suit. Ripped bodices. Hot kisses. Near discovery. I nearly swooned. What more could possibly befall our hero and heroine? Be still, my heart, and wait impatiently for the next installment of All's Fair. 1640, November 28, 2024. So glad you approve. Thought about changing ending to where she climbs out with him and they disappear too? Haven't entered it, so think it is okay to change. Happy Thanksgiving. Reply. Edit. Delete. Upvote. Downvote. 1 point. Trudy Jass, 1656. Novo 28, 2024. Happy Thanksgiving to you. You could have her slip out before she meets what's his name, or in the day or two before the wedding. Auntie could have a little tea party for her, and off the Jersey or Gretna Green they go. Reply. Report. Upvote. Downvote. 1 point. Mary Bendixson, 2055. Nov 28, 2024. Right on. Reply. Edit. Delete. 36. Nov 28, 2024. Your story has a lot going for it. It's dramatic, emotional, and packed with tension, all of which make for an engaging Regency romance. Charity's despair and her father's overbearing nature are written in a way that makes the stakes feel real. It's clear how much is on the line for her, and that emotional pull keeps the reader invested. I love how you've woven in Regency-era details like Spencer, Ton, and Amon Curler. Those touches make the world feel authentic without being overwhelming. Charity and Riley's relationship feels passio. Reply. Report. 1644. Novi 28, 2024. So appreciative of your comments. Was considering changing the ending to her climbing out with him to the unknown. What do you think? Happy Thanksgiving. Reply. Edit. Delete. Upvote. Downvote. 1 point. Rebecca Lewis, 1808, Nov 29, 2024. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. I think having Charity climb out with Riley could be a powerful ending. It adds an extra layer of defiance and agency to her character. It would show she's willing to take control of her own fate instead of being trapped by her father's demands. Plus, it leaves the story on a romantic and adventurous note, with the two of them facing an uncertain future together. That kind of ending would feel satisfying and true to the passion you've established between them. If you decide to go that route, you might want reply, report. Thanks again. I wrote another Too Cute episode last night that sort of fits one of this week's prompts. After reading the new prompts, I think I will pull the fair story and match it with a new prompt. Even though it has several likes, which I will lose, I didn't enter it into contest, so it should be okay to do. Have more family events today, but hope to get this done. Reply, edit, delete, upvote, downvote, 1 point. Leslie Mamala, 1105, Nov 28, 2024. Well done. I am ready to hear what happens next. Reply, report, upvote, downvote, 1 point. Mary Bendixson, 1653, Nov 28, 2024. Glad you liked it, and thanks for the follow. Have you read the previous episodes, all with fair in them, that lead up to this fiasco? We'll get back to your work after today. Happy Thanksgiving. Reply, edit, delete, 2020, Nov 28, 2024. Not yet, but I will. Happy Thanksgiving. Reply, report, upvote, downvote, 1 point. Thomas Wetzel, 0749, Nov 28, 2024. Your writing is so sophisticated, I can barely understand half of it. I just know it's awesome. You are so good. I'm gonna go watch every episode of Downton Abbey, and then come back to reread this and see if I can actually appreciate it like an intelligent adult. Happy Turkey Day. Reply, report, 1649, Novi 28, 2024. Gobble, gobble to you too. I don't know about sophisticated. I am only winging it on this ton stream, but glad you like it. Reply, edit, delete, upvote, downvote, 1 point. Lady Coretta, Stephenberg, 0502, Nov 28, 2024. Always a good read. Reply, report, Joe 533, Nov 28, 2024. Thank you. Reply, edit, delete, upvote, downvote, 1 point. Alexis Araneta, 1748, Nov 27, 2024. An adorable continuation of your series. Lovely work. Reply, report, 1931, Novi 27, 2024. Thank you. Do you think of this as the finale, or does it go on? Reply. Edit. Delete.